From Tijuana to the border to San Diego, we've spent the week learning about the immigration crisis on the border from every area. For me, I come away with several thoughts. First, I now know a lot more about the kind of people trying to get to America. The ones that President Trump calls criminals. Every person we spoke to who interacts with these migrants daily says just the opposite.
Come on down and spend the night at the casa and meet the people, I work with.
What I see is this kind of resilience, the determination, the fact that they picked up their family, they've traveled thousands of miles, they've done this for months. They did this because whatever they're experiencing, back in Central America, had to be really bad, had to be really awful.
It's heartbroken. It's emotionally draining, and I'm sorry about my voice, but it's emotionally draining sometimes to try to understand, because the conditions they are fleeing are horrendous.
The family separation issue is the most, is just the hardest to deal with, because people are risking their lives to save their children's lives.
And Erica would know a little bit about family separation. The Georgetown-educated attorney with offices in both Mexico and San Diego, the woman who helps migrants with their asylum cases for free, became a victim of U.S. government policy, and she was separated from her own young child.
I was stopped on January 29th, the day that the Remain in Mexico policy was launched. I was stopped coming back into Mexico. I was detained for several hours, and I was removed from Mexico without my child, who lives here. I was not able to come back for almost a month. Once the Trump administration launched their war on asylum seekers, we also became targets of the administration. Myself and my colleagues were included in an unlawful monitoring program launched by both the Mexican and U.S. governments, targeting those who help migrants. More than being frightened, it's just that my life has been upended. Every time I cross an international border, I'm detained. Many of my family members don't live in the United States, so even to go visit my own family, I'm in danger of being detained and deported from the country of my parents. It's impeded our work in the sense of, we have a San Diego office that I'm supposedly running, but it's not going to stop us from helping these people. These are people fleeing life and death situations. People desperately need legal assistance, especially if they're being forced to wait in Mexico during their U.S. legal process. So as much as the U.S. government would like to stop us from doing this work, they're not going to.
Which leads me to my takeaway on what the U.S. government is doing.
There has to be a consequence to a crime. If there's no consequence, that crime is just going to continue.
The Border Patrol view is one of law and order. No matter how sad the situation, if you come into our country illegally, there has to be a consequence.
Right now, we really need some of these asylum loopholes closed. We need to keep people in custody when they come into this country until the judicial process is completed.
President Trump has made it clear how he feels.
The system is full, and when it's full, there's nothing you can do. You have to say, I'm sorry, we can't take you.
His administration has done everything in its power to make the process more difficult for those asylum seekers. Meanwhile, every day, women, children, and families still come to our border looking to escape the violence and the poverty in their home countries. Violence that has taken their husbands, their children, their parents. And poverty that has caused their children to go hungry and stunted their development. Yes, we need a better immigration policy, but not one that criminalizes families looking for help, looking for a safe place to live, looking for exactly what our country has promised it would be. So what can we do as Americans? My colleague Vicente Calderon sums it up best.
If they just open their minds and go and look beyond the rhetoric, they will have more compassion and understanding for these people.
That does it for our special report on immigration and the crisis at the U.S. border. Please keep watching Richard French Live across all our stations, as we'll stay on top of this divisive issue that's not going away anytime soon, and most importantly, focus on the people it impacts most. Have a good evening.